There is a moment that arrives without warning, usually late at night, when the world finally grows quiet. The phone stops buzzing, traffic softens into a distant hum. Outside, life continues, steady and loud somewhere else. Inside, something slows. In that pause, a question rises, not angry, not dramatic, just heavy. Did I waste my life? It does not arrive as a scream. It comes as a whisper, almost polite, sitting beside you while the clock keeps ticking, pretending not to move. Minutes stretch, thoughts circle. You replay ordinary days, unfinished plans, small choices that felt harmless then. Nothing looks broken, everything looks normal, yet something feels missing. You sit there, surrounded by noise that no longer touches you. The world has places to be, people are moving forward, screens glow with proof that time is being used well somewhere else. Meanwhile, you are still, listening to your own breathing, wondering how years can pass so quietly. There is no accusation here, only confusion, a sense that time slipped by while you were busy surviving each day. The question does not demand answers. It waits with you in silence, asking to be noticed rather than escaped. It lingers like a soft ache, unfamiliar yet deeply personal, reminding you how alone thinking can feel. This quiet beginning asks nothing except your presence here. It is the kind of moment people hide from because it feels too honest. But honesty does not hurt immediately. It simply sits beside you, patient, allowing feelings to surface slowly, without pressure, without judgment, without the need to explain yourself to anyone at all. In that space where time pauses and breathing becomes enough again, for now, alone. After that question settles, memory begins to move, slowly, like dust lifting in a quiet room. You do not remember everything. You remember what did not happen. The calls you meant to make, the paths you thought you would walk by now, the version of yourself that once felt close, then quietly disappeared. You remember promises made without witnesses, plans built late at night, full of certainty, later folded away by morning. Back then, the future felt wide and forgiving. There was time to fix things, to begin again, to become someone clearer, stronger, more confident. The years ahead looked patient. Now, when you look back, expectations feel heavier than memories. You measure your life not by what you lived, but by what never arrived. Careers that stayed ideas, courage that waited too long, words that stayed trapped behind pride or fear. None of it feels dramatic. It feels ordinary, almost dull, which somehow hurts more. People around you may not notice this weight. From the outside, your life appears acceptable, even stable. You learned how to smile, how to answer questions, how to say you are fine. Inside, comparisons quietly grow. You line up your present self against who you thought you would be, and the gap feels personal. Regret does not shout here, it sighs. It sits with tired eyes, flipping through old thoughts, wondering when effort turned into endurance. You are not angry at the past, you are simply confused by it. The feeling is not exposure, but recognition, as if someone finally named the ache you never knew how to describe. It feels like standing before a mirror that reflects absence instead of failure.
where disappointment softens into quiet understanding, and you realize you are not broken, only holding expectations that never learned how to change. When the mind keeps asking if time was wasted, it usually points to what can be seen: titles, milestones, photos, announcements. The world teaches us to measure life from the outside, using proof that fits into short sentences. When those signs are missing, the conclusion feels simple and cruel: time must have been lost. But lived time rarely looks impressive while it is happening. Most days are quiet. They pass without witnesses. From the inside, time feels heavier, slower, filled with thoughts no one hears and struggles that never make it into stories. You wake up, carry something invisible, and make it through another day. Nothing about that looks successful, yet it takes effort. This is where the illusion begins. We judge inner years using outer rules. We forget that time spent holding yourself together does not leave obvious marks. Survival leaves no certificates. Healing does not always announce itself. Growth can happen without movement anyone else can measure. So the mind returns to blame, because blame feels clearer than uncertainty. It says you should have done more, been more, shown something by now. It ignores what was quietly happening beneath the surface: the patience you learned, the boundaries you built by failing, the awareness shaped by disappointment. From the outside, it may look like nothing changed. From the inside, entire seasons passed, just learning how to stay. Time was not empty, it was occupied with keeping you here, breathing, enduring, learning the weight of your own thoughts. That kind of time does not look productive, but it is never wasted. It simply does not perform for anyone watching. Even now, recognizing this feels unfamiliar, because worth was never meant to be proven outwardly, only felt inwardly, slowly, when silence finally allows gentler interpretations to exist without asking permission ever. Some days were never about becoming anything more. They were about getting through the hours without falling apart. You woke up already tired, carrying yesterday into today, pretending it weighed less. There was no vision board guiding you, no clear destination waiting, only the quiet goal of making it tonight again. These days did not look heroic. They were repetitive, slow, often lonely. You showed up where you had to, disappeared where you could, and learned how to function on low energy.
From the outside, it looked like stagnation. From the inside, it felt like survival. Achievement belongs to stories with visible endings. Survival belongs to moments that never announce themselves. No one applauds the strength it takes to stay when leaving feels easier. No one notices the courage hidden in simply not giving up. So you began to believe these days did not count. But endurance is not absence of effort. It is effort spent quietly, repeatedly, without reward. Each ordinary day demanded something from you, even when you had nothing left to offer. You learned how to move carefully, how to lower expectations just enough to breathe. This was not failure. It only felt that way because the world celebrates becoming, not surviving. It praises progress but ignores persistence. Yet persistence kept you alive during chapters that could have ended differently. The cost of that persistence shows up as exhaustion now. Heavy limbs, quiet doubt, low belief in your own worth. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of how long you held yourself together without rest. Days spent enduring do not shine in memory. They fade into each other, unnamed. Still, they carried you forward, even when you could not feel movement happening at all. That kind of labor stays invisible, but it is real, and it matters more than it ever learned to say. You are allowed to feel tired by them without turning that tiredness into another reason to doubt yourself. In this quiet part of life, there is a kind of strength that never announces itself. It does not raise its voice or leave evidence behind. It lives in the quiet choice to stay when leaving would have been easier. In waking up again when rest felt earned but impossible. From the outside, everything looked calm enough. Inside, effort was constant. People often mistake calm for ease. They see you moving through days without complaint and assume nothing heavy is being carried. They do not see the conversations you had with yourself just to keep going, the mornings that began with negotiation, the nights that ended with relief rather than peace. This is where strength hid, not in confidence, not in bold steps forward, but in restraint, in choosing not to disappear, in learning how to soften reactions so the world would not notice the storm passing through you. You became skilled at appearing fine while quietly managing fear, doubt, and exhaustion. No one applauds this version of resilience because it leaves no visible marks. There are no celebrations for choosing patience over escape, no rewards for endurance that looks like stillness. So you learn to overlook it too, believing real strength must look louder, braver, more impressive. But something shifts here, gently. Recognition replaces blame. You begin to see that calm was not emptiness, it was control, it was care, it was the result of effort applied inward again and again. The struggle existed even if it never showed. This realization does not demand pride or action. It simply allows acknowledgement, a quiet understanding that what you carried mattered, that staying took strength, and that strength, though unnoticed, has always been yours, waiting patiently for you to recognize it without needing anyone else to confirm its existence. Even now, quietly, steadily, without witnesses at all. As recognition settles, the idea of time begins to change. It no longer feels like an enemy stealing moments from you. It feels quieter, closer, almost present. You realize those long stretches you called empty were not hollow. They were heavy, and they were holding you. Time did not rush you forward. It stayed. It witnessed the days when you felt too tired to dream, too unsure to move. While you believed nothing was happening, time was passing carefully, allowing you to exist without demanding more than you could give. This patience often went unnoticed.
From the outside, time is measured in results. Years are counted by what they produce. From the inside, time feels different. It stretches around pain. It slows when life feels unbearable. It becomes a container for thoughts you could not share, fears you could not name, strength you did not recognize yet. When you think of time as something lost, it feels cruel. It feels like proof of failure. But when you see it as a witness, something shifts. Those years saw your struggle. They saw you stay when leaving felt tempting. They held moments of doubt without turning away. Time did not abandon you during silence. It sat beside you while you learned how to survive your own mind. Even now, it continues without judgment, offering space rather than deadlines. The clock may have moved, but it did not betray you. This reframing does not erase regret. It softens it. It allows you to feel accompanied rather than left behind. Time was not empty. It was full of unseen endurance, quietly supporting you through chapters that felt too heavy to name. And in that understanding, the weight of wasted years begins to loosen just enough to breathe again, slowly, without fear, knowing you were never as alone as you thought before at all. Truly, time remained present, patient, steady, holding space until you noticed.
When you look closely, beneath the stillness, something else appears. Not success, not achievement, but a quiet shaping that never asked for attention. While you believed nothing was changing, something inside you was slowly rearranging itself. There were lessons you did not choose, yet they stayed. Ways you learned to listen more carefully, to pause before reacting, to notice what drains you and what does not. These changes did not come with celebration. They happened silently, in between ordinary days, while you were focused on getting through. From the outside, life seemed paused, no milestones to point at, no clear progress to explain. But becoming is not always visible. It does not always move forward in straight lines. Sometimes it deepens instead. Sometimes it softens. Sometimes it simply prepares space. You did not wake up transformed. You woke up slightly different again and again without realizing it. You learned what pain feels like when it stays too long. You learned the cost of ignoring yourself. You learned how fragile hope can be and how carefully it must be handled. None of this looks impressive when shared. There is no sentence that captures it neatly. Yet it matters, because this quiet forming changed how you carry the world now. It altered your pace, your tolerance, your understanding of yourself and others. This is not a promise of a better future. It is an acknowledgement of a deeper present. Something has been taking shape slowly, without permission or applause. And even if you cannot name it yet, it exists, subtle, unfinished, real. A life forming beneath the surface, asking only to be seen, not rushed, not judged, not forced into proof. Grief does not always come from loss you can point to. Sometimes it comes from meeting the life you imagined and realizing it stayed imagined. The person you thought you would become still lives somewhere in memory, unfinished, quietly waiting. You remember how certain you once were, how clear everything felt before experience complicated hope.
That version of you believed time would open doors easily, that effort would be rewarded quickly. Letting go of that image feels like another failure, even though it never truly existed. So the grief turns inward. You blame yourself for not becoming them. You replay decisions, searching for the moment everything went wrong. But nothing went wrong in one moment. Life unfolded differently, slower, heavier, shaped by circumstances you did not fully control. This grief deserves space, not judgment, not correction. Mourning what did not happen does not mean you hate what did. It means you cared. It means you had dreams worth missing, and missing them does not make you weak. There is relief in allowing this sadness to exist without punishment, in admitting you are not angry at yourself, only tired of carrying comparisons. The imagined life can be honored without being chased. It can rest. As you release that version gently, something softens. The pressure to explain yourself eases. Forgiveness begins quietly, not as a decision, but as a breath. A small permission to live as you are now, without apologizing to a future that never arrived, and without asking the past to justify itself anymore. It is enough for this moment to let grief pass through you gently, without turning it into proof that you failed, or that your life lost value, when it was simply lived in a different shape than expected, and still deserving of patience, understanding, and respect. Time keeps moving, not because you explained yourself well enough, but because it does not ask. It does not pause at your doubts or wait for your reasons. It continues gently, indifferent to stories of success or failure. For a long time, you believed you had to justify your place in it, that every year required proof, that worth needed evidence. So you carried self-judgment like a constant companion, measuring days, counting mistakes, rehearsing defenses no one requested. But time never demanded them. It moved beside you whether you felt proud or ashamed. It allowed you to exist on difficult days and quiet ones alike. No explanation required, no apology expected. This realization loosens something tight inside. The pressure to account for every choice begins to fade. You notice how exhausting it was to live as if life were a test constantly being graded. Acceptance here is not celebration, it is permission. Permission to breathe without comparing timelines. Permission to stop narrating your life as a series of errors needing correction. Time remains steady, offering the same space it always has. You do not need to impress it. You do not need to catch up. You only need to be here, as you are, without defense. In this gentler understanding, self-judgment softens into quiet presence. You are no longer arguing with the past or bargaining with the future. You are allowed to exist now, without proof, without urgency, without explaining why your path looked the way it did, trusting that being here is already enough, even in uncertainty, and allowing this moment to stand on its own, quietly valid, without comparison, without witnesses, without fear or expectations lingering. You are still here, and that is not a small thing. It means something, even if it does not look like the stories you were taught to admire. All this time you thought survival was a pause between real chapters, but survival became the chapter itself. It held fear, patience, disappointment, and quiet courage. You stayed, you felt deeply, you endured days that asked too much and gave very little back. For a long time, you believed this meant you failed. Now the shape of the story changes. What once looked like wasted life reveals itself as lived life, honest and unfinished. There is no rush here, no demand to become someone new, only a quiet acknowledgement of what has already been carried.
You are not behind. You are not broken. You were surviving. And survival was never nothing. It was the story, unfolding slowly, breath by breath. As this understanding settles, there is calm instead of urgency. The question that once hurt grows quiet. You do not need to rewrite your past to honor it. Being here was enough. Being here is enough. Nothing more is required tonight. Just this presence, this breath, this gentle recognition. Your life did not slip away. It stayed with you, and you stayed with it. In that mutual staying, meaning quietly formed. Not loud, not perfect, but real. You are still here, and that counts. It always did, even when you could not see it. This ending is not an ending at all. It is a resting place, a moment to sit without judgment, to let the story breathe, and to know quietly that you were never late to your own life. It arrived exactly when it could, carrying you with it. That is enough for now. Rest here a little longer, please.